We just finished the first Chaos Trial on what I'm dubbing the Raging Witch. This is my first playthrough, and I've been soaring through this game right now. I wanted to share the build that I have. I'm sure there's a ton of different builds out there, probably some that are a lot better than this, so I'm really open to some feedback. Let me know in the comments if you want to change something or if you've seen something that works really, really well that I'm not doing. But so far, everything that I've come up against has just melted. I've gone really heavily into minions. I wanted to cover some of the gear choices I made, some of the skill choices, then the passive tree, and we'll cover exactly why I selected those and what I did to make my life a lot easier to get to this point. We're almost all the way through Act 3. We're leveling very, very quickly now. Things are just dying as we're running through. We barely even need to stop moving. We're going to start with a couple key things that I want with in my gear just to make this a little bit easier of an experience for me. We're taking minion skills on the scepter, and I made sure that I found one that had plus to spirit. That additional spirit allows us to take additional minions, so we can have more minions, bigger army, more damage. I also took plus to minions on my helmet, and if you get lucky, and I'm going to have a planner in the description of this video, so make sure you check out the planner because that will have the optimal setup. I'm still hunting for some gear here, so some of the gear that I have is going to be less than optimal for how I would love this build to run. To make my life a little bit easier and to make the game feel a little bit smoother, I went into pretty heavily, as much as I could, life per second. So this will allow me to let my minions be out in front, killing things. And if I do happen to take any damage, it will allow me to regenerate that life without having to use my potions. So when it comes down to a crazy boss fight where you are taking damage here and there, but you can still run away and save yourself for a little while from getting hit, this is going to help regenerate that passively, and you can save on the potions for when you really, really need it. Something I learned early on is making sure that your resistances are up. My resistances are actually kind of low at this point, but because the minions are so strong and there's so many of them out in front of me, most of the time this doesn't matter too much. But if you do come to a boss where you're specifically dying to a certain element, make sure you keep pieces of gear in your bags that are going to be able to swap in and out so that you can get those resistances up, because that is a game changer. The only unique that I was able to use for this build that I found was Dodre's Tenure. This is the only thing that I've been using, and I am using it. It does make your casting a little bit slow, but we did have a couple different ways of speeding up your cast. I did find a ring with increased attack speed on it. This was actually just a regular old normal item. So make sure you're not sleeping on your normal items. It had one affix on it, and that was cast speed. So I got this here, and I was able to increase my cast speed, even though my cast speed has been slowed down by 24%. Now I get an additional cast speed, and in the skills, with one of our mostly used cast skills, we have a way to increase the speed with that too. Speaking of skills, let's take a look at the skills that we're going to be taking here. Because this is a minion build, after I completed the first Ascendancy, I ended up taking Loyal Hellhound. 20% of the damage that you take is actually converted to the Hellhound's life. So while that Hellhound is alive, it's actually a great source of damage reduction. So because we're running minions and I'm stacking as much as I can, this is the option that I took for the first one. And as I said, I just completed the Chaos Trials. So for the second set of skills that we're taking, I took a Demonic Possession. This is going to grant you Demon Form. What Demon Form is going to do vastly boosts the power of all of your spells. You're going to gain Demon Flame every second that you remain inside of that demon form. That's going to cause you to lose life at an ever-increasing rate. Revert back to the human form. If you reach 1 life, you cast a skill that isn't a spell, you reactivate this skill. So if you click back onto your demon form skill again, it's going to take you right out of that skill. Now, these points are definitely subject to change as the build evolves. This is what we've done up to this point. For the demon form support gems, we're going to be taking Clarity. Increase your mana regeneration rate while the supported skill is active. You actually are going to lose a lot of mana because you're going to cast so fast. So having that additional 30% increase is going to be really helpful. We're going to also take Vitality. Regenerate 1% of your life per second while the supported skill is active. Remember, we're going to be losing life at an ever-increasing rate, so having this additional life gain will actually give us longer duration inside of that demon form. The next ability that we're going to take, we're actually going to skip, and we're going to talk about Contagion. This is going to actually work in conjunction with Unearthed, and we'll explain why when we get through this here. What Contagion does, it puts a debuff onto a single monster. When you put Contagion on a monster, that's the monster you want to focus on. You take your single target damage, and then you hit that specific monster only. If that monster dies, and it still has Contagion on it, Contagion spreads to all of the monsters around it. Now, it does a lot of damage. When that contagion spreads out, you'll see it. It's this big purpley, black, shiny glow around the monsters, and their life just disintegrates. Make sure the area of effect hits all of the monsters around us. We're going to be running Magnified Effect as your support gem. That's going to give you 40% increased area to your contagion. The reason that contagion is going to work with Unearthed, what this is going to do, it's going to shoot a cone of bones out from the ground in front of you. If you hit a monster that you have killed, it spawns an additional minion for a short amount of time. Those minions, if it was a monster that was just killed that had contagion in it, the minions will spawn with contagion on them. Every time they attack an enemy, they spread contagion themselves to all of the enemies that they hit, so you don't even need to recast it. With the build that I have set up right now, I can get up to 14 of these constructs. With 14 constructs running around, all with contagion on it, contagion is everywhere. For the support gems, we're going to be running Persistence. Supported skills have 40% duration. That means we're going to have our constructs up 40% longer. We're also going to be running Brutality. Your supported skills are going to do 35% more physical damage. When the bones pop out of the ground, they're going to do additional damage because the bones itself do actually do damage. So you have a great source of damage going out, and then you're also summoning monsters with contagion on them. The next skill we're going to be taking, we're going to be going into Skeletal Arsonist. This is going to summon a bomb-throwing skeleton. It also has the ability to explode minions when they get below a specific threshold of life. That means if they're close to dying, when one of the arsonists revives, it blows up one of the other monsters that's about to die itself, and then does additional damage on top of that. For support gems, we're going to be running Ignition. Supported skills have a 100% chance to ignite, so this is going to do additional fire damage. Supported skills have a 100% more chance to ignite. That doesn't mean that we have a 100% chance to ignite. That means whatever the chance to ignite for your fire skills were with your arsonist, it doubles that amount. So if you had 10% chance, it's going to give you a 20% chance to ignite. For the other one, we're going to be running Minion Instability. Minions from supported skills explode when reduced to low life, dealing 15% of their maximum life as fire damage to the surrounding enemies. When your minions get low, your arsonists, they explode, dealing damage to all of the enemies around them. That means that if they were going to die, they're getting hit by some monsters. That means they're going to explode. We're going to be stacking minion life like crazy. So this will be a great source of damage here if they do end up dying. We're going to be taking Essence Drain. This is going to be our source of single target damage. This is also going to be a source of damage over time that you're going to put on the boss that's going to work in conjunction with your minions, and then all of the other damage over time effects that we're going to be casting. And for the support gems, we're going to be running Pierce. Projectiles from the supported skills are going to pierce. They're going to do 30% less damage to anything after the initial hit, but that means that they hit the first monster that's in front of them, then it's going to run straight through and continue doing damage to any of the other monsters that are in back of it. That first one is maximum damage, then after that, it only does 30% of the damage. The other support gem is going to be Lacerate. Your supported skills are going to have a 30% chance to inflict bleed. So now we're going to add shadow damage and we're going to add bleed damage to this. The next skill that we're going to be taking is going to be Skeletal Warrior. These are going to be your tanks. Because we're going to be using these for tanks, we're going to be doing Last Grasp. Minions from the supported skill die 4 seconds after their life is reduced to 0. That means that their life can hit 0. They're still going to help keep you alive for that 4 seconds after that. We're going to run Meat Shield. Minions from supported skills deal 35% less damage. Minions from the supported skills have 50% more maximum life. We're taking away some of the damage from these. We just want these out in front, tanking the damage for us. We're going to be running Elemental Army. Minions from supported skills have 30% to all elemental resistances. I was able to add an additional slot to this, so I put this on. But these two are going to be the first two that you want to add if you don't have access to a third slot yet. Now, the whole reason, and we're calling this the Raging Witch build, we're going to be running Raging Spirits. While active, your fire spells will also summon Raging Spirits, which are short-lived flame skulls that rush at nearby enemies, rapidly attacking them. Enemies will not directly engage these minions and can pass through them. You can only have a maximum of 10, and you can only get 5 per cast. For this one, we're going to be taking Fire Infusion. The other support gem that I want for this, I don't have access to yet. So this is going to be the only one that I'm going to be putting in for this one here. Supported attacks are going to gain 25% damage as extra fire damage. Supported attacks are going to deal 50% less cold and lightning damage. This doesn't do any cold or lightning damage, so we're just going to get a buff to our fire damage. Now, we're a witch. We use chaos magic, we use summons, we don't cast any fire damage whatsoever. How are we going to be able to summon these raging spirits? We're going to be taking Flame Wall. This is going to cast a wall of fire right in front of you. And what's cool about this is that it's actually not going to be a wall. And I'll show you exactly how to do that. Every single time that we cast, it's going to cast 5 of our raging spirits. We're actually going to have to cast this quite often. Fortunately, it does quite a bit of damage itself. But what we're going to be taking for support gems, your supported skills have a 25% increase attack speed. Remember, we were losing 24% cast speed right here. We added in the 10%, and now we're going to add an additional 25%. So we should be seeing this cast faster than normal spells will. We're also going to be running Fortress. Your supported skills are going to deal 50% less damage with hits. Walls from supported skills are created in a circle instead of a line. Now we're going to cast circles around everything. I'm still going to test out the damage on some bosses and see if I like the circles or the lines better. But for now, I'm running this because we can put a group of them down all over the place, and it just encircles a whole bunch of monsters and does a bunch of additional damage over time. So that's the gear, and that's all of the skills. Let's take a look at this passive tree. We already covered the ascendancy skills. So when we're going through, the focus was on minion life. Now, if you need to, you can come up to the corner here and you can type in minion life. And then you can see all of the nodes that start flashing so that you know exactly where you want to go into. We started off going up the tree here. We went into minion life here. We're going to be taking some increased damage from minions. We're going to swing all the way around and make a quick detour. This was the path that I went first. I made sure that I got this 15% increase in maximum life and the reviving faster. We got the minion life here. Then I swung up around this path here. Minions revive faster. You're going to gain life when your minions are reviving. Minions have a 40% increased maximum life. This was a big one here. That's why I went this direction first. We did go down into the movement speed for minions, attack, and cast speed. We're going to be coming up. Now, I did take a couple different nodes in the all attribute section to make sure that I took some dexterity and I took some strength. A lot of the support gems that we are going to be using are actually going to require a small amount of dexterity and strength. So sometimes I had to backtrack a little bit, add a little bit more strength in, or add a little bit more dexterity in. So just make sure you play it by ear, just to make sure that you can unlock everything that you have here. We went down into Vile Mending. Minions have a 20% increased maximum life. They're going to regenerate life now, and they're going to gain some chaos resistance. We went through, your minions are going to recoup 10% of the damage taken as life. This will help keep them alive a little bit longer. Then we went all the way down into some elemental resistances for your minions to make them a little bit more tanky. We're going to continue moving up all the way through here and into the minion tree. Now you can see there's minion life here. This is going to be the path. I'll have it in the planner, but follow along the video and the planner to make sure that you guys put everything in the correct order to make sure that you can get to where you need to be to start off the game. So that's the build. That's how I have everything set up. Now, how do you run your rotation? Now, remember, we are going to summon your raging spirits from your flame walls. So we're going to make sure we cast flame walls. We have to have 2 flame walls up at all times. So what you want to start with is we're going to start with Contagion. So as we find groups of monsters, the first thing that you're going to cast is Contagion. Then you're going to use your single target damage to put some debuffs on. And as you can see, up here, this is your Raging Spirit buffs. So we have 2 up at all times. And then as we cast our Earth, we're going to see our other construct minions up here being summoned. So we want to make sure that we have 10 minions up at all times and then keep as many constructs as you can. But the way that you're going to run this rotation, it's going to be cast. Then you can use your Unearth, and then you're going to cast a minion, Unearth, cast minions, Unearth, so that we have our 10 up at all times, and then you're going to be constantly refreshing your constructs. If it's a single target monster like a rare or a boss, you're going to cast your 2 casts, and then you're going to cast your single target with your mana drain, with your essence drain here. So flame wall, essence drain, flame wall, essence drain, flame wall, essence drain. That's what it's going to look like. This is your demon form here. So as you can see, we can cast a whole lot faster. we are slowly losing mana very, very quickly, much faster than when we're not in demon form. And as you see, my life is starting to go down very, very quickly. So in order to get out of this, we can just cast the skill again, and it takes us back out of it. If you watch, mana regens very, very quickly. Our life starts to regen because we went into all of that life. So that's going to be your gameplay loop as you're going through and as you're playing. You want to try and keep as many minions up as you possibly can. The build is really cool. I would love to hear what you think about it. Give me some ways to improve. Let me know what you're doing with your witch builds. I'm live every night. Stop by, say hi, theory crap with me. Catch you on the clip side.